deck off stream to get a feel for some of the changes while the kids were still up. And one of the things I want to do now, if you haven't seen this before, we're going to go through and rewatch the replays of those games that we played and kind of take a look and re-examine some of the decisions that I made and see if we could make better ones or kind of evaluate why I did the things that we did. Nope, we're just planning to play Standard tonight. I'm pretty set on a Modern deck for the Invitational, and I'm not quite set on a Standard deck. Alright, so... yeah, it just like this deck didn't have enough lands in it, and it just had like infinite what's the word I'm looking for? It had infinite 4+ drops. Like the curve looked miserable. Did I delete the old deck list out of here? I think I might have deleted the old deck list. No, I didn't. Here's the old one. Like this curve is like 13 3s and then 9 4s and then 4 5s. And Elder Deep-Fiend at the top. Like this curve is pretty miserable compared to the one that we're playing right now. Like this is much trimmer. Anywho, to the match that we are playing now, or we're replaying now. This hand is pretty great. We've got all of our colors in it. We've got, you know, quality 2 drops. We've got a reasonable 3. We've got a piece of removal or something that we can cycle. This card's really growing on me in this standard format. I really... cycling's a great mechanic. Having cycling cards like this adds consistency to the deck so they can help us hit land drops in the early game when we really need to, and like this card's just like a quality answer to basically fix target problem. So this hand's an easy keep, and we actually have decisions right off the bat. It's like, what do we want to do with our opening resources? There's merit to playing the Irrigated Farmlands on one. There's merit to playing the Fortified Village and just like cycling the cast out to kind of get a feel for how this hand's going to shape up. Because even if we go Fortified Village, cycle cast out, and then go Forest and like have to play this tapped on 3, we can still go Servant into Rogue Refiner on 3. So I think there's merit to just go ahead and doing this and just getting to curve out naturally. This cast out, we don't know. I think if we didn't have a 3rd land in our hand, we'd probably want to cycle this on 1. But because we have 1, 2, 3, we really don't need anything else. Slow land. There's not a lot of things to do in the first couple turns of Standard right now as far as the turn 1 plays go. Basically, people are just casting Attune with the Aethers or occasionally 3-bin Inspectors. Jam the Servant here. This lets us have the option to go 2-drop, 2-drop on turn 3. So Voltaic Brawler, usually Voltaic Brawler signals... Do you have a hiccup on the stream? Nope, I haven't dropped a single frame here. Voltaic Brawler usually signifies they're playing the red-green energy deck, often the Pummeler. The Teamer energy builds don't usually have room for Voltaic Brawler, so this is kind of a giveaway that they're likely just 2 colors. Sometimes the Jund variations play Voltaic Brawler because it's a little bit more aggressive card, but usually it's just red-green. Tracker is a fantastic draw here. It means we can go ahead and cast Tracker off the Servant of the Conduit and then play a land to make a clue right away. There's some argument to being resource efficient here and just like playing 2 2-drops out, but getting value off this Trackers I think is a little bit more important than being resource efficient. Opponent has a Game Trail revealing a Forest. I'll take Brawler, they can paint energy to give it 1/1 and trample. They do not. We could trade here, but like there's no reason to trade this aggressively. We could potentially draw another land or 2 off another card or 2 off the Tireless Tracker. Also gets a little bit bigger eventually. So let's go ahead and take our look for 3 here. He seemed very good with Tamiyo if you expect to clog up the ground in the early game. So like this is a great example of like why I don't think Sylvan Advocate is particularly good. Voltaic Brawler right here. Sylvan Advocate can't attack into this card profitably, and it can't block this card profitably. Long Tusk Cub, same thing. Your opponent goes Attune with the Aether, Long Tusk Cub. Your Sylvan Advocate can no longer attack. It can no longer block. Your opponent plays Winding Constrictor. Can't attack profitably into that. If they block, they just bounce until they get like their first token producer. Just like Sylvan Advocate stats make it outclassed very, very often in the early game, which means it's generally not worth playing. So opponent has a really ugly Ruinous, the Indomitable here. This is the green god in whatever these hideous cards are called form. Says can't attack or block because they don't control something with 4 power. Another land's good, makes another clue with Tireless Tracker. So have a lot of sequencing decisions here yet again. Probably just want to be resource efficient and play Rogue Refiner plus a 2-drop. Which 2-drop's a good question. It's probably Selfless Spirit. I don't think we really gain a benefit from having a guaranteed 6th mana on the following turn. And Selfless Spirit in play to protect the Tireless Tracker, so it can continue generating card advantage is very reasonable. Thanks, JW. Like I said, it's valuable for me too. Like, I spend some time reviewing my matches off stream. Especially the next match that we get into has a lot of really, really good back and forth. Yeah, I definitely, like, Tireless Tracker was a card I considered. Also, if you, like, you look at our mana base, we only have 1 Lumbering Falls in the mana base. So, like, we're not gaining the benefit from it powering up creature lands either, really. So this one's kind of interesting. It's worth noting that these 2 cards don't interact very well with each other. Specifically, Ruinous would need to power this up. You can't use this trigger to enable this to attack, because once this gains its 4th point of power off its trigger, it's already attacked for the turn, so Ruinous can no longer be declared as an attacker. Now, something interesting that my opponent's sequencing here tells me is that they don't want to spend their mana to give this +2 power in Trample. Because if they had intended to spend their mana to give this +2 power in Trample for the turn, they probably would have done it before they attack, so they could also attack with Ruinous the Indomitable. So that means this incentivizes me to use my Rogue Refiner to block here, because they're probably not going to power it up, and we're just going to eat their guy and take 2 points of damage. But, like, my Rogue Refiner gained me, or drew me a card and gained me some energy. So, like, I really don't care if we trade this, because it's like trading 1 for 0, basically, which is a card up for us. Opponent plays another ugly god. This is the Pervert here. He, worth noting, is that I mentioned I love Cast Out earlier. Cast Out exiles gods. So you could see here, these gods play really well together. This god enables Ruinous to be able to attack and block, but thankfully, we're able to go ahead and just, like, play this Cast Out here and cast out the Fervent, and then this can't attack or block. So we're able to, like, play a land, make a clue, play Cast Out, void this, crack our opponent for 7. Now they're suddenly down to 10 and, like, staring down a very, very big board from us. Oh, I forgot to post to Discord, didn't I? I posted on Twitter. Again, I am repeating myself. So opponent has a Glory Bringer here. They could go ahead and they can kind of position themselves to race here. So opponent makes an interesting decision. They're attacking with both, which isn't that surprising. But they chose to exert this Glory Bringer. And basically, if you exert Glory Bringer on a board where your opponent has Selfless Spirit, you're basically just killing their Selfless Spirit. So they target my Tireless Tracker. We bin the Spirit. This is the one I linked you, Ryan. So they don't have any blockers here. I think I could start by cracking a clue and seeing where we get with ourselves. Makes the tracker bigger. We get another land. We can crack another clue here. And this was exerted, so it's not attacking or blocking this turn cycle. And we drew an Avacyn, which is a pretty good hit. Yeah, there's 2 Elder Deep-Fiend, 2 Archangel Avacyn at the top end of this deck list. So now, my opponent's at 10, and I can go ahead and crack them for 5 here, which takes away half their health. And then we can play out the Servant of the Conduit here, making it so we have 2 blockers for this 5/5. That's not... Another important thing to remember is that Rowanus cannot give itself +2 in trample, so it wouldn't even be lethal even just on its own. Opponent attacks with Rowanus here. So this means they have to have a blocker for the Tireless Tracker, because otherwise it's lethal. Servant, sure. And a Long Tusk Up, and they're out of cards. We actually have a number of draws here that are just lethal. Tamiyo and Elder Deep-Fiend both allow us to kill our opponent here. I believe we drew Deep-Fiend? Yeah, so Deep-Fiend we can just cast for 8 mana after we play this land and tap down my opponent's 2 blockers, then hit them for lethal with this Tireless Tracker. This is a card that just, like, keeps constantly impressing me. I really liked how this card's played out. It really allows you to, like, steal games that you like, kind of have no business winning. There we're at. It's game 2. Game 2, we have a hand here that's like, I don't think I'd fault anyone for keeping this hand, but it really feels kind of mediocre. Censor, it's quite possible I'm supposed to just board the Censors out on the draw, actually, against the deck that has Accelerants like my opponent does. Like, I'm not going to be able to censor their Accelerant on 2, and then when I have my Censor up on my 2, their 3, they can play a 3-drop through a Censor. So, I go ahead and I mulligan this. I think these probably should have not been in my deck on the draw on this matchup, though. This hand's plenty reasonable. We've got Village into Attune for our blue source, and then we've got like Servant and Selfless Spirits just looking for some payoff cards. Bottom another land here. Again, like I mentioned earlier, the only thing people are really doing on turn 1 in this format is casting Attune with the Aether. So my opponent attunes, I attune. Everyone is well in touch with the Aether here. So now this is kind of an interesting point here. We have 3 different cards we can play here. We can run out a Servant, we can run out a Selfless Spirit, or we can pass and hold up Censor. One of the things that's worth noting is that if my opponent didn't have anything to do on the second turn of the game, there's probably a pretty high probability that they have a Harness Lightning because they kept 7 cards. So I think I want to just pass here because not only do I have a chance to censor their 3-drop on their turn by passing, I am also just like not letting them use their resources this turn. I almost guaranteed of a slightly higher latency than normal because I am streaming using my cell phone and not a dedicated connection because my dedicated connection is crap for the last week and a half. Opponent plays a full art forest to go with their white bordered forest. An opponent doesn't have a 3-drop here, which kind of sucks for us. There's an argument to cycling the Censor here, but I feel like there's a non-zero chance my opponent could have a Chandra next turn, so I think we go ahead and we keep it. Yeah. Rogue Refiner is a great draw here. Rogue Refiner means we can just go ahead and play this out and like not feel too bad. If my opponent has a powerful 4-drop, they have a powerful 4-drop. correctly identified that our opponents likely had a Harness Lightning, as they Harness Lightning our card that drew a card. God bless them. An opponent misses their 4th land drop here, and here we have a couple decisions again. Because my opponent hasn't made a play yet, I think it's fine to just... we could leave the Censor down. One of the things that's kind of cool about this deck is that Tireless Tracker is such a powerful card that can run away with the game when you're flooding out, and we have access to Selfless Spirit to protect it. So, like, we could go Tracker, tapped land, make a clue, and then if they kill it, that's at least cantripped. We're kind of light on action, though. So, I think the best thing to do here is probably play an untapped land, play a 2-drop, and hold Censor up. And we drew this Irrigated Farmland, so even if they don't play into Censor again next turn, we can still use our resources to cycle this farmland. You can see I can kind of tap my lands and untap them here as I'm thinking about all my possible choices, because my gut was to go with the Tireless Tracker, but I think getting the Selfless Spirit down, or possibly just other things to eat removal first, is worthwhile. Setting up the Servant here means that next turn I can go Selfless into Tracker nicely. An opponent has another Harness Lightning, so it soaks another piece of removal. Opponent has a Servant I Conduit, so they finally make a play, and our Censor doesn't do anything about it, which is a little unfortunate for us. So we get to go ahead and cycle this Irrigated Farmland. And this does mean we could no longer Selfless plus Tracker, but we drew Aether Hub, so that's not necessarily true. So now here, like, they've played around the Censor for so much this game that I'm just, like, not going to run it into them. We can just go ahead and cast this Tireless Tracker, and then play this Aether Hub and make a clue, and then cast the Selfless Spirit to protect the Tireless Tracker. They don't have red mana up here, so this was never exposed to a removal spell at any point. And then we find out that our opponent is the Electrostatic Pummeler deck, and they're increasing their energy to a fairly terrifying 9 points. So one thing I don't think I mentioned when we started is how I sideboarded. I did not bring in the Dissenter's Deliverance, and the fact that this card cycles, I think, means that if there's even an inkling that your opponent could be the Electrostatic Pummeler version of energy, you should just automatically board in all the copies of Deliverance, just because, like, the opportunity cost is really low on this card. You can cycle it when you don't need it in the late game. So they're going up to 9 energy here, which means if they have one of their pump spells, this is going to come across for 40 next turn, and we are very dead. We do have copies of Cast Out and some other stuff in our deck, but, you know, not too terribly exciting. Probably statistically did here. And, like, this Blossoming Defense 10 out of 10 could have been a Deliverance. So, Cast Out is really our only piece of removal, so I think we lead on... Did I lead on cracking the clue? I think I was actually supposed to lead on using the Censor, cycling the Censor here. And the reason for that is if we draw Cast Out, we can't actually play it with only 3 resources here. I don't think I drew Cast Out. Yeah, so I wasn't punished for my missequencing here, but I'm just going to go ahead and click through because they end up having it like they always do. Is anyone else having... Anyone else having connection issues? OBS isn't reporting any dropped frames on my part. I'll check my Twitch dashboard. Maybe refresh or try a different browser. Yeah, my dashboard says I'm connected at excellent, so. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Electrostatic Pummeler plays a bunch of these stupid cards that give it +4 power and trample. There's a red card that gives it +4 power and trample as well, so they get 8 pump spells. And this turns it into a 5. And then they pay energy and it goes to 10, and then they pay energy and it goes to 20, and then they pay energy and it goes to 40, and we die. So I'll let you watch my opponent kill me. And I conceded here. Yep. Because we did. Alright, so as we get to the third game here, we're going to readjust how we sideboarded. You'll see here I brought in all of my copies of what's it called? Dissenter's Deliverance, the green destroy target artifact. We've got Shatters that cycle in our deck. We have what might be a questionable keep here in this second game. This hand's like super reasonable if we hit a white source. We've got a piece of interaction, and we've got a Tireless Tracker to draw some cards. We've got like this to lock stuff down, and like we've got good top end here. So I don't think I'd fault anyone for throwing this back, but like we have 20 white sources in the deck with the copies of Attune with the Aether and Servant of the Conduit. So I think this is worth keeping. I don't know. It definitely wouldn't fault anyone for pitching this one back, but I don't like to mulligan, so we didn't. No, we are reviewing a couple of matches that I played earlier today to kind of evaluate the decisions that I made during those games. We draw, and that's like the stone worst draw in the deck, right? We need to draw a specific land, but we draw a land that didn't make the color that we need, so we're just kind of like sitting here in our bed hoping we don't die in it. They have a Servant, so pretty reasonable start from them. We draw another land that's not the color that we need. Feels bad, man. There's questionability about playing out the Tireless Tracker here, but like if we rip a white source next turn, I want to be able to cast one of my white spells and not fall too far behind, so I think it's worth playing the Tracker out, exposing it to a removal spell before it generates value. I don't really think Blessed Alliance, like a card like Blessed Alliance, that you always want to ask yourself, like, what problem is this card fixing that I'm, like, adding to my sideboard or to my deck? And the real specific problem that Blessed Alliance feels like it solves in general in the standard format is killing Bristling Hydra. And, like, we have 3 copies of Fumigate to kill Bristling Hydra. Not to mention we can just, like, gum up the ground and block it. So I don't think we need an answer specific for Bristling Hydra. We drew Rogue Refiner, which is, like, you know, not a bad draw. It gets us a card deeper into our deck here. And we hit one of our 20 white sources, so we get to play Basic Forest and then cast a white spell here. Or get a plane, sorry. Basic Forest, Attune for planes. They have a Magma Spray for this, which is, again, it's like whatever. Like, this drew a card, so I'm not really that upset about it. I feel Westvale Abbey is strong enough card to have Blessed Alliance for. I mean, we've got how many copies of Cast Out? 3? I'd probably play the 4th Cast Out as a way to answer. And I've got Deck and Stone too, so I've got like 5 answers to flip Westvale, 3 of which are instant speed. I mean, I don't think you need a card like Blessed Alliance specifically for the Pummeler deck. I think just like boarding properly, you're probably fine against the Pummeler deck. Tireless Tracker was a great draw here because it means we can go ahead and use our resources efficiently. So we can play this and then play Plains and then Deck and Stone this Long Tusk Cub. Kind of keep our opponent's board in check while we work our way up to the Tamiyo and the Archangel Avacyn here. So we're giving our opponent a card draw, but they're kind of choked on resources and have plenty of cards, so it's not really that big of a deal. Blessed Alliance is a situationally powerful card that is sometimes great and sometimes awful, and Fumigate, when it is in your deck, it is often the only magic card in your deck that you want to draw, so you probably want to be playing 4 copies of it. Opponent goes Long Tusk here after we Deck and Stone to the first one, so feel a little bit bad about our life decision. So we have a couple different things we could do here. The first involves cracking a clue and putting on this and getting a little bit more information. We could also just like play Tamiyo, play Servant. The question is, what do we want to do with Tamiyo necessarily if we even play her out? Worth noting, our opponent has 6 energy here, so these Long Tusk Cubs can get a little bit obnoxious if they want. We start by playing a land and investigating. And then, like, if we play the Tamiyo here, like, what are we doing with the Tamiyo? There's a couple different options. I'm not certain I chose the right one. We could just start generating some card advantage. We could, like, Tamiyo plus on this, and then, like, ship the Tireless Tracker in. And if they block, we crack a clue and we get to draw a card off of it at least. There's another option of, like, using the Tamiyo to lock down both of these and then, like, leaving the Tracker back on D, cracking a clue. The problem with that line is that if that happens, then if our opponent has a single removal spell for the tracker, they can use this Servant to clean up our Tamiyo, and like we still have these long tough cubs to deal with. So I think we're supposed to draw cards here. And what I did here was I targeted both of their long tusk cubs here with Tamiyo. So if either of their cubs deal damage between now and the next turn, we're going to get to draw cards. And then I took what might be a little bit of an aggressive or strange line here. I shipped my Tireless Tracker into their long tusk cub, even though they could put 3 counters on it and just eat the tracker. Because this way I'm getting to like draw an extra card this way. So basically I'm like making this attack is like cycling my Tireless Tracker essentially. Because like I've got plenty of clues. I'm basically just like looking for more answers to clean up their board. We were talking about Fumigate a second ago. There's 3 copies of Fumigate in my deck. So like if I cycle my Tireless Tracker into a Fumigate, I'm pretty happy with that life decision. And my opponent made an interesting decision here. They chose not to go all in on this long tusk cub to eat my Tireless Tracker. So they just like traded here for whatever reason, which I was, you know, pretty happy with. We draw a card because our long tusk cub dealt damage to my Tireless Tracker, and we drew a cast out. So you know, found an answer to start containing this board. It feels like the floor on Tamiyo is often like draw 2 cards, gain 5 or 6 life, which is like pretty reasonable for a 4-mana spell, it feels like. And like the ceiling on her reads win the game. So opponent puts 1 counter on the cub. And then they play this Hydra to put a 2nd counter and a 3rd counter on the cub. So the cub gets to eat the Tamiyo at this point. But I get to draw a card because, you know, Tamiyo is active. So we drew Attune with the Aether. We have Attune with the Aether and Fortified Village. So we might as well lead on the Attune and get a Plains here. So that way we can play the Fortified Village untapped, and that's the same amount of mana. And then we have 6 mana total here. And there are a couple different things we can do this turn. This card gets really annoying when we don't have our sweeper to deal with it. So I think there's definitely a strong argument for just like playing the cast out here and tagging this while they don't have the power to make it better. Awesome, Milla. Past Jeff disagrees with my assessment. He draws with Rogue Refiner. I guess the merit to drawing with Rogue Refiner here is that because they don't have energy for this just yet, they can't attack in here. And we do have 3 Fumigates in our deck, so like cycling this to like hit the Fumigate's a pretty high upside play. And I would believe that Past Jeff was greedy. So, worth noting here, too, is that we'd be in a pretty bad spot if our opponent played a Glorybringer on the following turn with this line that I took, but the opponent doesn't have any energy, so they actually can't Glorybringer us because this can't make mana. So, taking that line is definitely true. It lets us maximize our mana, but it makes the out of playing to drawing a Fumigate much worse. And with the way our life total is at, there's a strong argument for just like playing to using our life total to play to maximize that. So they attack us with both of these here. I go ahead and I throw the Rogue Refiner in front of this. This is a little annoying if they have, like, exactly Harness Lightning. They could Harness Lightning something, spend no energy, and make this bigger, but I think that's fine. We take hit for 5 here. So pretty happy with that trade. Like, their quality card traded with my card that drew a card. Elder Deep-Fiend. Whenever I feel like I might be slightly behind, Elder Deep-Fiend shows up and he's just like, I'm here, master. And here, like, the world is basically our oyster. We just get to, like, pass to our opponent here with all of our resources up. We've got nice, clean 9 mana, so we can Avacyn plus cast out. Now, worth noting, opponent does have 2 energy now because the Long Tusk Hub hit last turn, so they can cast Glorybringer now. But this turn, we really don't care if they cast Glorybringer, right? Like, if they cast Glorybringer, it's about to run headlong into this Archangel Avacyn, which is exactly what they do. It's a beautiful thing. So they ship with both of these, and God, Avacyn is so good against these dragons. So Avacyn makes our stuff indestructible. We get to go ahead and eat the Glorybringer and bounce off this Long Tusk Hub. Dragons are worse than angels, it turns out. And then actually, we can crack the clue here. I think there's merit to just like being resource efficient this turn and casting this out. The upside to waiting on the cast out is that if they have another Glorybringer, we can cast out before it can kill the Avacyn. Selfless Spirit's actually a really good draw now because it means that our opponent can't Glorybringer us now and kill our Avacyn, even without the cast out. 5-0'd the first 2 leagues with the Esper Gifts list. It's super sweet. Man, I really hope that thing doesn't blow up before the Invitational. I really don't want to play mirror matches. Modern's pretty slow to adapt usually, so hopefully people that are relevant don't notice. But like, I would prefer to not play a mirror at the Invitational. That being said, I think the deck is genuinely good, so. At this point, I just go ahead and cast out the Long Tusk Hub. Sometimes these decks play things like Blossoming Defense, so I think it's worthwhile to tag their big threat now while they can't get us. School reunion. Google Mark's and Milla, I'm gonna go off on a rant here for a second because people do this all the time. Mark played a deck list that had Goryo's Vengeance and was Esper colored. It was, when you get 6 magic cards different, you're often venturing into a new deck. Our deck lists are like 20 cards different. So like, yes, his deck is the same color as mine, and like one of his main engine pieces is one of the same main engine pieces as mine, but they're fundamentally different decks and they play out differently. I would encourage you all to Google his deck list. Yeah, I'm like, tons of people would be like, when I first started posting the deck list, he didn't actually play Gifts Ungiven, which is one of the reasons why I think the deck that I'm playing is actually very good. Like, without that card, it's very different. Like, Saffron Olive has been posting about the pieces of the puzzle version, which I think is much, much worse. And Mark Tobias's list was, like, all in on the combo, basically. Which, I guess people playing, like, slightly different, worse versions of the deck is probably a boon for me, because, like, that means that people aren't going to know exactly what I'm doing. Even if they're familiar with theirs, they're not going to be familiar with what I'm doing. Like, Modern's a format where you just want, like, mono free wins, and, like, that's very good at helping you get free wins. So, turns like this are, like, what kind of make me want a third Avacyn in the 75 for this deck list. Yeah, he played a bunch of Grizzlebrands. So, 2 Avacyns, you can have both of them in play if one of them is flipped. So we get to crack our opponent for 6 in the air here, and then we get to sacrifice our Selfless Spirit to trigger the flip text on Avacyn because a non-angel creature we control is dying. So that means on my opponent's turn, this Avacyn's going to flip and sweep the board. Yeah, exactly. Like, the Eldritch Elves deck is different from the Visor Company Elves. It's weird. They both play Elvish Archdruid, but they're fundamentally different. I should write an article about that at some time. I feel like I go on that rant enough that like I should formalize that and kind of talk about those differences. So opponent powers up their Bristling Hydra in response here because this Avacyn's about to get angry and deal 3 damage to a bunch of stuff. And, like, the fact that we drew the Spell Queller is fantastic, because it means we could protect extra here. Because, like, even if my opponent went to, like, Harness Lightning this before it flipped, we could Spell Queller the Harness Lightning, and then in response to this flip trigger, play the second Avacyn to protect the Spell Queller. Opponent plays a Hazoret, which this can only attack if they have 1 or fewer cards in their hand, so they can't actually attack with it. but they have one of their Pummeler pumps here. This gives 2 of their creatures 2-0 and trample, so they're just going to be dead here. We get to go ahead and Spell Queller this, and then we get to go ahead and play our second Avacyn to have a bunch of indestructible blockers and then more than lethal in the air. Didn't even need this Deep-Fiend. So that match had some neat stuff in it, but I actually think it was much less interesting than the second match that I played. Nice legendary roll, exactly. It's like when you have the Jace Looter and Flip Jace in play at the same time, you're just like, something doesn't feel right about this. Want another die roll, which is, turns out, winning die rolls, good in Magic. This hand's fine. The mana's a little awkward, but like the fact that we have Attune with Aether makes these Aether Hub hands playable. Cast Attune, go and get a forest here. Player tapped land. So, they play Servant of the Conduit here. I chose to cycle the cast out trying to find a 3-drop because, like, we don't have anything to do with our resources next turn, really. So, like, I think I want 2 shots at being able to have something to do with our resources here. Attune with the Aether, like, kind of qualifies. We did hit a 3-drop in Tireless Tracker, but I don't think it's worth playing out until we can guarantee generate some value with it. Gift Storm, probably the next Modern stream, so not tonight, maybe tomorrow night. We're going to play Standard all night tonight. They have a turn 4 Chandra, we have a cycle Irrigated Farmland. So now we just like don't have a lot going on. We can play this Tireless Tracker and then play the Botanical Sanctum and generate a clue, but like we're pretty far behind here. The energy allows us to play Aether Hub, which increases the consistency of our mana base a good deal. I was actually talking with people in the subs Discord before I started this league about wanting some kind of energy payoff. I think playing like 2 to 3 copies of Long Tusk Hub in the 75. Milla TK with the $10 donation. Thank you very much for contributing to the Invitational Fund. Because why not? Gotta get you to the Invitational. 64% there. Thank you. I do appreciate it. Cycling cast out seems bad in hindsight. I don't know. Like, we need more plays. Like, we're going to flood through these at some point anyways. They made mana off this Chandra, which is interesting. And they had a Glory Bringer, which I assume is eating this. Oh, they had a Magma Spray to eat that. Yep. So, that was... So, it's kind of interesting here. The fact that they had Magma Spray and didn't exert the Glorybringer, I think was actually better for us, because what it does is it allowed, not only did it use up their 1 energy, but it means that this can attack again this following turn when we can flash in this Avacyn and eat the dragon. The fact that they used up their energy is also super relevant, because if they don't have at least 1 energy floating, they can't harness Lightning Avacyn, which is huge. So we just get to play basic planes here and ship the turn back. Again, our hand's kind of poop, but like this Avacyn's about to like punch the clock and go to work. So unless they have double harness or harness Magma Spray, this Avacyn gets to eat the dragon. And she does. Avacyn is hungry, and dragons are the only thing that can sate her hunger. Just gobble, gobble, gobble. Days with thinking. An opponent hit what was probably the single best card in their deck. They hit Whirler Virtuoso, which means that this Chandra is threatening an ultimate next turn, and they now have a chump blocker for it. So, kind of in trouble. Thankfully, we drew our old buddy Selfless Spirit here. Selfless Spirit, this is a good guy. I did see the Fate Weave shards. They're really sweet. Time will tell whether or not they're actually better than the coins. They're probably going to be better in different strategies. Avacyn confirmed, Bait Slayer Angel, right? Protection from dragons. So, crack the clue, kind of get a feel for what we're doing here. Tamiyo's a good draw. She's a fine lady that draws a lot of cards. So we can play one of our untapped lands here, play Selfless Spirit, and cycle Irrigated Farmland. The reason why Selfless Spirit is a fantastic draw here is because it allows us to trigger flipping Avacyn, and when Avacyn flips, not only does she deal 3 damage to the board, but she also deals 3 damage to our opponent, which we can then redirect to this Chandra Torch of Defiance. So, I did something here that I think might have been a little bit too cute. I chose to attack my opponent directly as opposed to attacking their Chandra. If I attack the Chandra, they'd spend 3 energy and chump block it. So I was choosing here, what did I think was more important? Getting rid of 3 energies or getting rid of or dealing 4 points of damage? So I ended up attacking them here, which may or may not be wrong. They didn't have the Harness Lightning last turn to kill Avacyn. They could have Harness Lightninged after playing this. So that's kind of sends the message to me that they don't have Harness Lightning, so the Selfless Spirit play is probably going to be good. That being said, we don't have any other lines. We have to kill this before it ultimates. So we play the Selfless Spirit, we crack the Selfless Spirit, and trigger our Avacyn. Avacyn triggers. The other upside to flipping Avacyn here is that now she has 5 defense, and Chandra can no longer minus and kill her. So, you know, we would in fact like to redirect. Things are coming up Millhouse. Opponent adds some mana here, fumbles around a little bit, casts a Rogue Refiner, casts another Rogue Refiner, leaving their Chandra exposed to my Avacyn the Purifier. So this turn is sweet. We get to play Tamiyo and plus her on Avacyn and a Rogue Refiner. And past that, since we drew this Spell Queller, we can flash the Spell Queller in inside of combat next turn and block one of these Rogue Refiners when they both go to attack Tamiyo to kill her. So Tamiyo's going to draw 1 card on this Avacyn attack. Who drew a Negate. Opponent plays an island. So they send both these Rogue Refiners at Tamiyo. And again, like, they haven't had a Harness Lightning yet. And if they had one, they probably want to use it to kill our 6/5. So flashing in the Spell Queller is probably going to work. It does. We get to block. So not only do they not kill the Tamiyo, but because this Rogue Refiner that we plussed on dealt damage, we get to draw another card. Just, like, continue burying our opponent deep inside the ground. When we draw a card that draws a card, sign me up. Why are we still playing Negate post-Marvel ban? Well, I mean, every deck has really important non-creature spells that they're hoping to draw. Having a hard no answer to critical things your opponent can be doing is pretty important. A lot of these decks have very minimal amounts of removal, so stopping a piece of removal on one of your must-answer threats means they didn't answer your must-answer threat and then can win the game. So they hit another Whirler Virtuoso here, which is kind of annoying because now they have 12 energy here. So the fact that I didn't make them spend that 3 energy earlier feels a little bit bad. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the gate. So trying to figure out exactly how we want to sequence here. Lead on the Rogue Refiner. This is very likely just dead, right? Like, they're going to be able to make 4 tokens next turn and kill it. And then Rogue Refiner draws my card that, like, whenever I'm thinking, like, man, this isn't going to end well for us, the Octopus shows up and just, like, finger pistols out, just, like, comes blazing into the room, blasting people off. So we get to go ahead and plus our Tamiyo and we get, like, this card already drew 2 cards, and it's about to draw a 3rd card. So, like, even if this eats it at some point, like, this card has drawn 3 cards, and it's gained us 3 points of life already. So, like, she is more than made up for her 4 points of mana that we invested in her. So they make a Thopter to block the Avacyn, sure. To main. Yeah, this Elder Deep-Fiend, it's got a lot of tentacle pistols. Why do we play Attune? Why do we play Attune in that specific instance or in the deck in general? Killing me. So they get to make 3 Thopters here. And these Thopters mean, this Elder Deep-Fiend means these Thopters are not going to get to kill my Tamiyo. So someone asked earlier why we play Negate in our deck, and then our opponent casts a Chandra, and we cast Negate, and it gets negated. It's a beautiful thing, really. Wow. In the deck, because I like having good mana and casting my spells. So, we sacrifice the Archangel Avacyn here. Remember, one of the Oracle's updates is that the backside of these cards have the same converted mana cost to the front side, so this counts as 5 towards our Emerge. We make 2 blue here, and the Elder Deep-Fiend taps down all of these tokens. And now they can't kill the Tamiyo, so the Tamiyo is going to get to survive to draw even more cards. So we plus on the Elder Deep-Fiend, then I plus on a Thopter, because the Thopter's probably coming across next turn. Now, here's a fun moto game. Which Thopter did I plus on? Nobody knows. Which Thopter? Can I click on this and find out? Oh, I can click on this, and it'll highlight one of them. Good, good. You never know over here. Alright, so let's attack with the Elder Deep-Fiend. One of the best things you can do to help grow as a Magic player, even when you're an experienced Magic player, is look back over the past games that you've played and kind of reevaluate your decisions. It's especially valuable when you are learning a new format, and I haven't really played Standard since the end of last year. I basically just, like, skipped the mess of the last 2 combo formats and didn't play them because I play Magic to have fun, and I wasn't about to have fun in those formats, so I didn't play them. So we hit here. Tamiyo draws a card. We draw a Spell Queller. Spell Queller is also, like, the thing sunshine and butterflies are made out of, right? Like, so it's actually a flying blocker, so it can start eating these Thopters in the air here, because opponent does have 3 energy left, so they can make a 4th Thopter and potentially kill the Tamiyo. Tireless Tracker gets to punch the clock and go to work. Lead on the Botanical Sanctum, because this is always going to be tapped, whereas this could be untapped down the line. Alright, so they play Tireless Tracker here, which, so they play Tireless Tracker here, and we're basically just, like, committed to quelling whatever they play here, because we want to play this Spell Queller to block a Thopter anyway, so we might as well just, like, Spell Queller their thing. Opponent plays a land, and then our opponent does something that makes me giddier than a schoolgirl. They start tapping all of their mana, and we get to censor their 5-drop on turn 9. This is the 9th turn of the game, I believe. Yep, turn 9. So you just get to go ahead and cast our Force Spike here and counter their dragon. Whoa. And opponent concedes because their 5-drop has been censored on turn 9. I hate in reality, like, they could technically ship their entire squad into the Tamiyo and kill it, but, like, then we're going to draw another card and we're to kill them on the backswing, so, like, they're pretty dead here. Alright, so game 2. This is the fact that I'm about to show you this game. I would like the record to reflect that I don't filter my content in any way. You get to see the games where things go poorly for me in addition to the games where things go well, like censoring their 5-drop on turn 9. So, we get this hand, and this hand's definitely questionable. I don't think I would fault anyone for mulliganing this. That being said, I think turn 3 Tamiyo is just, like, too good to pass up even on the draw, so we're going to keep this. Like, we have all of our colors. We get to go tapped land into untapped land, untapped land, untapped land if we need to, so, like, we're going to be able to play any of the spells that we draw. And then this hand starts doing what these hands do a lot of the time when you keep them. We draw the first land of the game after keeping 5, kind of like 5.5 lands in our opener. Opponent has a long Tusk Cub. Oh, we drew a Censor. That's not too bad. There might have been merit to leaving the Censor up here, but at the same time, I kind of just want to get the Tamiyo into play. And, like, we would have been able to counter this Rogue Refiner with the Censor, so, like, things worth noting. I'm going to be honest and tell you that I haven't really looked at spoilers. I have to prepare for a standard event in this current format, so, like, the spoilers aren't going to have bearing on my life for, I don't know, a month past that. You broke Magic Online with the tokens deck. So, this is the point where we get to use Tamiyo's little used second mode. So, we could just, like, plus the Tamiyo on these two guys and cycle it and draw 2 cards and gain some life. But I think it's better to just, like, lock these dorks down and then potentially use the Tamiyo next turn to start drawing cards. So, they spray our Servant. That's fine. We've got plenty more mana where that came from. We draw what is essentially another land. We plussed our Tamiyo on these two guys. Opponents choosing to only attack with this one because this one would let us draw an additional card, which is pretty smart on the opponent's part. Opponent wisely playing around Censor. Comcast is not working. I am currently tethered to my cell phone. So they play a Whirler Virtuoso. Things are getting bad for us, but remember, we've got 3 copies of Fumigate in my deck right now, so we've got 3 good draws, even though we're a little bit flooded. So cycle Censor, since the only thing we want to draw at this point is Fumigate. Draw another land. Cycle this land, because the only thing we want to draw is Fumigate. Draw another land. Untap, draw Rogue Refiner. Okay, that's a redraw. You know, it's not the worst. They spray our redraw, sure. We draw what's like half a land, kind of. We could play this out to block, but like the amount of damage we're taking this turn is like not lethal. So I think I'd rather have this post Fumigate should we draw our out. So we play a land here. My phone is plugged in. Thank you for the reminder. It is. It would probably be dead by now if it wasn't, honestly. Let me make sure it's charging. Yeah, we good. We good. So they get to hit us for a small amount here. And, like, if our opponent has Negate, they have Negate. Like, if we draw the Fumigate, we don't have the luxury of playing around it. They hit us down to 9. And not only do we not draw the Fumigate here, but we draw, you guessed it, another land. So, yeah, that's the second game. We get to go ahead and take it to a third here. And remember, like, that's a good example of, like, a lot of people look at that game and go, well, I didn't really get to make any relevant decisions. I just flooded and died. And, like, while we didn't really have many pertinent choices in the context of, like, the turns once they were playing out, the very first decision we made that game of, should I have kept this opening hand, could very well have been questionable. We basically kept a hand that had, like, 5.5 or 6 lands in it with the Servant of the Conduit and the Tamiyo, and, like, wasn't really interactive and didn't apply pressure to the board, so maybe the opening keep was questionable. We get to look at an opening hand here, which this hand is fantabulous. We've got, the mana's actually a touch awkward because we kind of want to play the Irrigated Farmland on one, but if we play the Farmland on one, we then don't have a plains to make this Fortified Village come into play untapped, so it's like, it's definitely a keep, but like, which land do we play on one and what are we doing with it is definitely a question. I chose to lead on the Fortified Village here because the decision tree that I came to was that Censor into Spell Queller was going to be proactive. Sure, but like, you could say that, like, that you could look at that hand and go, my opponent's deck is kind of aggressive. Turn 3 Tamiyo is not stellar against a deck that's planning to be aggressive. From when I played some matches this afternoon after I put this deck together. So, because I think Censor and Spell Queller are enough here on the play, I lead on the Fortified Village so that way I can cycle this cast out. And the upside that this gives us is that if we do flood a little bit this game, because we didn't play the Irrigated Farmland on one, we can cycle this Irrigated Farmland down the road. And we drew another Fortified Village, which we can put into play untapped off of this. That being said, we can just play this Botanical Sanctum and then pass with Censor up. Peace, JW. Yep, you can always find my stuff on YouTube. We get to go ahead and tell them to shh on their Chandler Innate here. So, this is kind of an interesting point. We can hold it the Spell Queller again, or we can play the Rogue Refiner. I kind of like playing the Rogue Refiner out here, because it means that not only do we get to kind of add pressure to the table, but this way our Spell Queller is kind of relegated to capturing their more important cards like Bristling Hydra or Chandra, perhaps. The Censors felt reasonable. When you have hands like this one where you're kind of playing out as a flash deck, it makes these hands better. And in the games where you're not playing out as a flash deck, you just get to, like, you know, replace it with a new card for very minimal cost. Opponent attunes, they play a land, they play Servant of the Conduit. We draw Fumigate here. And this is the point where, like, I kind of look at my cards and I go, I have this Fumigate in my Spell Queller deck, and I'm not quite sure how my life decisions led me here, but we're here, so we're going to deal with them. Lead by casting this Attune, grab another island, and then pass the turn. We can attack here? Yeah. Be aggressive. Opponent attacks us back. Post-combat opponent gives us a pretty interesting decision here. They cast this Long Tusk Cub. And now, there's two different lines we can take here. The first is that we have this Fumigate in hand, so we can, like, hope our opponent kind of plays maybe one more thing out onto the table, or we could just, like, let this resolve and then untap and Fumigate, and, like, this drew a card. So, like, we're basically trading kind of 2 for 1 because this didn't cost us a card, even though it does take a resource we have off the table. The flip side here is that our opponent hasn't played a land, so it's very possible they're missing a land drop this turn. And if we Spell Queller this, we have 5 points of power on the table and just get to race them. So I go ahead and I Spell Queller this, because even if they kill this Queller, we can then just Fumigate the board after the fact and, like, still be fine. And if they can't kill the Queller, we've got 5 points of power and we're just winning this race. And they play a land and kill the Queller, so our decision ended up not really mattering. And then we drew the Selfless Spirit, so, like, the Selfless Spirit is what makes the Fumigates in the board okay, because we can, like, Selfless Spirit and protect our board and then Fumigate. Start by cycling the farmland here to get a little bit more information on what we're doing with ourselves. Chose not to attack here because the opponent could pump 4 energy into this and make it a 4/4. And you can see we have 4 energy here, and we have 4 more potential energy in our hand. So a couple of Long Tusk Cubs might not be the worst decision in the deck that we're playing either, just because they allow us to pressure our opponents nicely. They attack with the Long Tusk Cub, and the same reason we can't attack means we can't block profitably here, so just, like, take somewhere between 2 and 4. The bad thing about Dusk Dawn is you really want this card against zombies, and Dusk Dawn often doesn't sweep zombies when you need to. It works when they have a lord, but if they don't have a lord, you feel really bad about yourself. Hey, this flies. Yeah, this is the 3rd game. So we go and get a land. Attack with this. I opt to not play the land here, because if we draw Tireless Tracker, we want to be able to cantrip this down the line. I cast Servant to the Conduit, hopefully encouraging them to play more troops out here. Is Dawn symmetrical? I don't actually know what Dawn does. I thought it was just one-sided, but it might be. The Wizard's website is down. I'm curious now. I'm looking it up. No, Dawn is return all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, Dawn is one-sided. Dusk is symmetrical. Dawn is one-sided. So they attack here. They have 8 energy. I chose not to block. And they end up walloping us for this. Was really hoping they play out another thing post-combat here so we could Fumigate and get some value out of it. Cast Out's a great draw. It means that we can go ahead and be able to tag this and kind of clean up the board. So this means we can get the green light to go ahead and attack with the Servant. Yep. Pass the turn here. Opponent drops a land and drops a Glorybringer. And this is kind of like a pivotal moment here. Opponent's attacking for 9 and we're at 11, and they have enough energy to pump this up to a 7/7. So if we go to cast this out, we're dead to Blossoming Defense and Negate. That being said, I think if our opponent had Blossoming Defense or Negate, they would just pump this preemptively, making us pull the trigger, because then they could fight it and then kill us anyways. So I go for the cast out to preserve our life total here. Take our hit from 4 for 4. So we get to get in our hit with the Servant of the Conduit. Oh, I didn't. Why didn't I get in the hit with the Servant of the Conduit? Oh, I decided I wanted to cast Fumigate. So, oddly enough, I took the conservative line here and cast the Fumigate. And the reason why I had to cast this here is I'm pretty sure they don't have a Negate, but just in case they're kind of sandbagging it, we can go ahead and do this. We gain 2 life up to 9. Oh, because this lets us play another Servant out afterwards, sure. Again, holding the Botanical Sanctum because we could draw a Tireless Tracker, and then this Botanical Sanctum will draw a card. Opponent draws a Chandra, and pluses, and hits a land. Or, hit another Chandra, sorry, so it doesn't want to cast that. We drew Tamiyo, which was a fantastic draw, because she's going to let us kind of keep up with the card advantage Chandra's going to generate. So we have to cast Tamiyo here. I think I made a mistake this turn, so I end up plussing the Tamiyo on just the Servant of the Conduit, and then trying to ship the Servant into the Chandra. If I would have played the Selfless Spirit first, and then plus the Tamiyo on the Selfless and the Servant, then my opponent wouldn't have been able to spend a removal spell to kill my Servant of the Conduit here. Which feels a little bit bad. And, like, their Chandra would have gone to 3, and I would have drawn a card. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to have Selfless Spirited first, and they had the Harness Lightning to punish me for not doing so. Like, post-combat Selfless Spirit of Shame, play a land. Opponent cycles a land, they plus their Chandra and find a Tireless Tracker. We drew a cast out, which is like, so... We have to decide here, do we want to... I played the land out this turn because I counted my mana. And, okay, so actually that's a really good question. The reason why I played out that land this turn is because I was expecting to draw extra cards with Tamiyo on this following turn, and I'm likely to be able to use 7 mana if I draw 2 cards. So there's downside to not playing the land, whereas before it was all upside. I don't even know what that card does. If it's a card that's in the new set, I don't know because I'm not looking at spoilers. So I plus the Tamiyo on these 2 guys, and the Selfless Spirit is going to go ahead and attack them since I have the cast out to answer the Chandra now. Tamiyo's kind of awkward. So I have the option to play this Tamiyo and get rid of this one to lock this down so I'm not dead to Glorybringer, but I think we're just supposed to take this Chandra out to deny them draws. We are dead to Glorybringer, though, with this line, because if they have Glorybringer, it is speed, and then Tracker plus Glorybringer kill us. I think if you want to time walk yourself to play a card that... I did catch that one, actually. If you want to time walk yourself to play a card that dies to removal, it's definitely not playable in Modern, and it's probably not playable in Standard. Like... You'd have to look at the removal that's seeing play in Standard and ask yourself, like, what this is creating line up against the removal spells? Dies to push. There you go. Push is the most common removal spell in the format, so if you don't want to time walk yourself to, like, trade 1 for 1. If you generated some kind of advantage, maybe it'd be worth time walking yourself, but yeah, doesn't seem great. Dies to both the premium removal spells, through all 3 premium removal spells. And now we drew a Tireless Tracker. So, and again, this is one of those points in our lives where we remember that Tamiyo has a second line of text on her. She doesn't just have a plus and an ultimate. So we get to play this Tireless Tracker out. We get to play this Plains out. We get to crack this clue and see what we draw. it doesn't need much help, let's be honest here. Tamiyo locks down these 2 Dorkos. And again, we're still in a position where we're just dead to a Glorybringer off the top because it attacks, it exerts and kills the Selfless Spirit, and it kills us while we're at 3 life. And again here, kind of noticing I'm at 11 energy, so deck probably needs an energy payoff of some sort. Water's great. Because I'm dead to Glorybringer anyways, I probably should have attacked with the Selfless Spirit here, but I didn't. I held it back. Yeah, I think Bristling Hydra or Long Tusk Cub are the 2 different possible payoffs we'd be looking at here. Confiscation Crew is another reasonable one. It's basically a nice pure 2-for-1, right? So we draw an Aether Hub here, which, you know, lands equate to more card draws with Tireless Tracker. And then I breathe in that giant sigh of release because we found Elder Deep-Fiend, and once again, all of our worries rush away as he comes in a blazing glory of tentacle finger pistols, just like tentacle finger pistols everywhere. This is, if there was ever a golden pew, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's just like 8 tentacle finger pistols just like come blazing on in here for past Jeff. Yeah, and the opponents at 1 minute on their clock here. So EDF, this card's been great. Tamiyo gets to lock down these 2 dorks again. And now that I have this EDF in my hand, we get to get a little bit aggressive here. I have this blocker. Get to go ahead and attack with both of these. They don't block, so we get to... Did I not crack my clue? Why didn't I crack my clue? I probably should have cracked the clue. I missed a point of damage. So opponent's at 7 at this point. Should be at 6, but I'm bad. And this Elder Deep-Fiend's probably going to tap down most of their board. And then our opponent casts this card. I was fairly certain that we were winning the game the following turn cycle here. And they drew Boral's Expertise, which returns 3 things to their owner's hand. And it lets them cast a card for 4 or less as a follow-up here. So... I have 4 mana for Octopus with cracking the clue. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana total. So we go ahead and we cast Elder Deep-Fiend, sacrificing the Rogue Refiner. We get to tap their 1 blocker, and then these 2 things here. Crack the clue at end step. Could have gotten an extra point of damage. Thankfully, it didn't matter. Like, this is 5, and they would have been at 6, so we're not super punished here. So, I went into the tank here. This is like... This board state's really complicated, right? Especially with, like, all the mana I have and all the different cards I have in my hand. It's like, what's the right choice here? Basically, I feel like the goal for this turn is to try and put ourselves the least dead to a top deck Glorybringer out of my opponent. They've already played 2 Harness Lightnings. They've only played 1 Glorybringer in 28 cards. So, like, pretty good chance that a Glorybringer is going to come off the top for my opponent. They're, like, almost 1 in 10. So, there's a lot of different things we could do here. We could, like, down-tick this Tamiyo and lock 2 guys down, play another Tamiyo, lock the other 2 guys down, attack them with this Elder Deep-Fiend. We could play Selfless Spirit, Tireless Tracker, but again, all of these leave us dead to their basically 1 in 10 Glorybringer, right? So, like, if we don't kill them this turn cycle or draw something that can beat the Glorybringer, we're going to be dead to that off the top of their deck. So, what I actually ended up deciding to do, and I don't know if this was correct, is I plussed my Tamiyo on Elder Deep-Fiend and Rogue Refiner here, because this way, if my opponent chose not to block, they were going to 2. And if they did choose to block, I was going to get to draw 2 cards. And possibly get more tools. Because if I hit, there's still... I have 1 Fumigate here, but there's 2 more Fumigates in my deck. So if I draw a Fumigate, I get to clear the board and gain 5 life, which means I'm no longer dead to a top deck Glorybringer. And, like, I have more than enough card advantage that I'm going to beat them from that point. So I plus that, and then get my attack on here. So, Fumigate's a good draw. Here's a few pennies to help you pay for all the phone data you're setting on fire for us to see the stream. Thank you, Punt Count Infinity. I do appreciate it. So they chose not to block, because it gives us 1 less card draw here. We draw a Censor, and, you know, Censor's a redraw. And then we draw my pretty lady. We draw my pretty lady here. And Avacyn is a way to not die to Glorybringer. Not only is she a way to not die to Glorybringer, but she actually just kills our opponent because we have Selfless Spirit in hand. My opponent actually commented in chat, dig for Avacyn, exclamation point, and I said I got it. Because I did. So flash this in, cast the Selfless Spirit, sack the Selfless Spirit, Avacyn trigger is going to deal 3 to them on the upkeep. And we got it with 3 seconds on their clock remaining. So, anyways, with that, let's play some live matches. I'm 2-0 in this league that I'm in, that we just watched those first 2 matches from. So, right, 2-0, yep. While we wait for this match to pop, I would just like to say good morning, afternoon, and good night to everyone, wherever you're out in the world. Thanks for choosing to spend part of your day here with us. My name is Jeff Hoagland. I'm a TCG player and content producer, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're enjoying what you see, I'd encourage you to show a little support. Use that follow button there on your screen. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps other people find my work. If you're really enjoying what you see, there's a couple different ways you can support my content past just following. You can subscribe on Twitch or become a patron on Patreon, or consider using that donation link down below to contribute to my SCG Invitational Fund. Normally, I am an adult and have my own money to spend on expensive trips like going to the SCG Invitational, but I had to replace my central air conditioning unit at the beginning of this month. It went out, and we have 90 and 100 degree days here in Illinois, so with 2 small kids, air conditioning is not an option. So most of my fun money for the summer went towards replacing the AC. We're mostly there, thanks to the generous contribution of this community. I'm really grateful for all of that. Also, if you don't have something to contribute directly, you can also support my content by supporting my sponsors. You're probably going to buy some of this stuff anyways. MTGOtraders.com would love to buy and sell Magic Online cards with you. If you use code Hoagland PayPal at checkout there, you will save 8% on your orders. InkedGaming.com would love to help you customize your gaming experience. They do custom playmats and mouse pads and all that jazz, and you can save 12% on your order there with code Jeff12. MTGCardMarket.com buys and sells physical Magic cards, and they also have a great selection of written content. I write for them weekly, as well as folks like Kevin Jones and Dylan Donegan. And finally, SpareDeck.com will rent you any physical, standard, or modern deck. You can rent a deck for a weekend or up to an entire month. I use their service quite often. I don't actually own that many paper cards. In fact, when I go to the Invitational, I will likely be getting both of my decks from Spare Deck. At any rate, our match finally popped here. Someone asked, no, I do not read that from a script. I just say it often enough that it basically sounds like it. One another die roll. Seems pretty good. this hand's fine, right? Touch Awk that we don't have any other energy producers for this yet, but like Attune makes this hand great, so. Can you explain the Blossoming Defense and the 3 cast out? The Blossoming Defense is probably kind of cute. I just, like, really want to counter a removal spell on my Spell Queller with a Blossoming Defense, because it sounds fucking great. I am a big fan of getting people, and Blossoming Defense is, like, a card that basically should just say, like, get got in its flavor text. That being said, this is probably one of the first cuts if I want to work some long Tusk Cubs in here. I'm just going to go ahead and censor this, I think. It burns my energy, which feels a little bit bad, but stopping their acceleration is probably reasonable. Would love to draw land. Would love to draw land. Any land. Any land, please. Immediately punished for having used the Censor there. We drew something that would make us more energy if we had blue mana. So because we didn't draw another land here, I'm just going to run this Tireless Tracker out because there's no guaranteed we get to make a clue with it if we wait a turn. What are considered the bad matchups for this deck? So, this current standard format basically doesn't exist. We don't know what's good, bad, or otherwise. We haven't actually had a major tournament since the banning. So anyone that's telling you, be rich with the $10 donations, you said a whole lot, so here, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Land. Attune with the Aether. Attune with the Aether. Attune with the Aether. Man, remember that time we went up to 26 virtual lands in our deck and we still missed our 4th land drop? Thank you for the donation, I do appreciate it. Anyways, what are this deck's good and bad matchups? I don't actually know, and most people that are telling you their deck's good and bad matchups off the cuff are basically just lying to you or making stuff up. Like, there's no way everyone has optimal versions of different deck lists at this point. Like, land. Alright, God bless. That at least does something. Don't glory bringer me, bro. I actually really like the Abzan tokens deck. I'm just afraid to play it at the Invitational because I'm going to draw a bunch with it. Because people are really slow at playing Magic against decks like that. Servant's decent. Huh. So one of their best ways to get into this game is a Chandra, I feel like. So I think I'm actually going to play Servant here. There's merit to playing the Rogue Refiner because I could cantrip into a land, but I think playing Servant and holding up Negate here is worthwhile. It also guarantees an Avacyn next turn, because they're probably not going to exert a Glorybringer to kill this. I mean, we're playing 22 lands and 4 Attune with the Aether. That being said, like, this being a second Lumbering Falls might not be completely unreasonable, but, like, you could also be results-based and say, like, I also didn't draw the Blossoming Defense here, so I still would have missed my land with a 27th mana source in the deck. Whirler Virtuoso, sure. So, I think this means no Glorybringer, which is good for us. Yeah, exactly. I've been playing the Abzan tokens deck online, and I've cashed almost every league I've played with it, but, like, probably almost 20 to 25% of my matches, I've been timing my opponents out. So, like, if I'm timing them out online, we'd be drawing in paper. I think I want to just play Rogue Refiner here. Because if I hit one more land drop, I can play Avacyn plus Negate. But I guess they've already spent a whole bunch of Harness Lightning, so it's kind of close. I'm still at 20. I'm going to be a little bit conservative here and lead on this, I think. Draw a card. Spell Queller's not bad. Yeah, I'm assuming they're just going to make a bunch of Thopters here. No, I left 3 back, probably to protect a Hydra. Always yield the trigger as your best friend. Yep, there's a Hydra. It's really unfortunate that we couldn't Spell Queller that, but we drew this off of this, so we didn't have the option to leave that open. Land. Sweet. And land's a great draw here, because it means we get to Avacyn with Negate up. Please attack into me with your Hydra. It would be really sweet if they cast Glorybringer here and attacked with a bunch of stuff. I've got 3 Fumigates in my sideboard. And Be Rich, there's actually a link to the deck list down below the stream on the MTG decks button if you want to see exactly what we're playing. The core of this deck really feels great. I like it a lot. God, the art on this is beautiful. The art in this latest Hex set is so fantastic. If you're a Hex player, even if you're not a Hex player, the art on this card is fantastic. Am I just supposed to Avacyn here? Maybe I'm just supposed to Queller here, actually. Yeah, I'm just going to Queller and eat one of these tokens and then start attacking them in the air. God, this Negate is good. It should be in the MTG decks below. Also, I will have an article being posted about it on MTG Card Market tomorrow, I believe. I have to go ahead and play this. We're going to hold this land at this point because they could, what's it called? We could draw Tireless Tracker. Although I guess we already have 2 Tireless Trackers down. Now he has a third activation for this, so I think they're encouraged to ship here, right? They didn't activate this, so I feel like you're probably attacking here. I've played a little bit of 1v1 Commander online, but I haven't really played any casual Commander in paper, no. Yes, you can respond to your own triggers. That is a perfectly legal play. That it works exactly like you think it does. In fact, I had it come up in... Was it one of the games? Or maybe I was just thinking about it and it didn't actually happen. If you Avacyn, and then in response to the trigger they try to kill the Avacyn, then you can emerge off the Avacyn in response to the removal spell. Please attack me. Please attack me. This Avacyn wants to stick it in you. I'm just going to keep not playing this Avacyn. mean, we're killing them in the air with the Spell Queller, so, you know, more power to you. If they make 2 tokens here and try and eat the Spell Queller, I'm going to play the Avacyn and kill their tokens. I think that's enough value for me. This is enough value for me. Yep. So I'm trading an Avacyn activation for 6 points of energy, basically, and like I'm getting this Avacyn on the table so I can start clocking them faster. It's a little bit worse if they top deck Glorybringer, but outside of that, sure. We'd love to draw a Tireless Tracker here. Or a Selfless Spirit. Tamiyo. Tamiyo would be absolutely insane. Put both of these in front of here. They drew exactly Harness Lightning. They could kind of get us here. Oh yeah, that triggers my Avacyn. Deal? I even forgot about that. Alright, are you killing my Avacyn here? Or I'm about to clear the board. And then your Glorybringer's no longer a good draw. Yeah, this seems really bad for them. Pull from Tomorrow doesn't seem particularly good. It's been unimpressive every time I've seen it cast. It seems worse than just playing the... My opponent just said I haven't played against her in forever. I forgot that's a thing. Yep. Transform my Avacyn. So long board. Attacking them with infinite 1/1s. Rogue Refiner. Deal. I'm just gonna play this land out. I only have one tracker left in my deck anyways. Spell Queller's a good draw. Yep, that's fine. Alright, they're just dead here. Just a lot. Correct. You can emerge off the backside of Avacyn for 2. We did that in one of my earlier games. Fumigate's good here. Deck and Stone is fine. Blossoming Defense isn't fantastic. Negate's, like, okay. I board in these Fumigates are, like, trimming a couple of Spell Quellers. While we do have the Selfless Spirits to, like, kind of defend our board, they do get awkward at times. Censor's kind of awkward on the draw in these matchups, so I'm going to take out 2 of them. I really like Censor on the play. I do not care for it on the draw. That's fine. Avacyn's great. Life's great. I think sideboarding and Standard is harder than Legacy and Modern. There are already so many cards like Negates and Planeswalkers just seem good in every matchup. I don't know what to cut. I don't know, I think that varies format to format and deck to deck. There's definitely decks in, like, Eternal formats that are harder to board with than others. Yep. Could be, Am I cycling this cast out? I'm probably going to want this cast out at some point. Man, let me tell you about my friend Selfless Spirit. Let's play this Servant of the Conduit so that we can cast out next turn if we need to, or just go double Spirit. Sideboarding's really straightforward. You just, like, cut the bad cards and put in the good ones. Can't block here because they can just pay 2 energy and make it 3/3. Deck and Stone. Rats. That's actually a great draw, though. So you get to go ahead and cast her and lock down their 2 cubs. Seems great. One of the things you should do, and I feel like a lot of players don't do this, is that if you're finding sideboarding difficult, when you're putting your deck together, you should be, like, thinking about your good matchups and, like, boarding them in advance. And, like, thinking about how you're boarding in advance like that will help you figure out which cards you're bringing in too much and which cards you're bringing in not enough and stuff like that. Because you're definitely going to have a lot of cards that you're bringing in too much or not enough and vice versa. I don't actually know what I want to do here. Tamiyo's probably going to eat it this turn, which is unfortunate. I guess she's going to get to draw 2 cards on her way out the door, though. I think I'm going to do this, cast the Selfless Spirit, and then cast another Selfless Spirit here. And then I'll plus my Tamiyo on this Spirit and the Tireless Tracker. Yeah. I don't need you now. Rogue Refiner, sure. So now if they want to attack, kill the Tamiyo, not only do they have to give us 2 cards, but they have to lose their Tireless Tracker, which seems great for us. Well, this is not going to work out how they want. So we're going to get to draw a card, and we're going to lose a Selfless Spirit, but we're going to keep our Tamiyo. So this one deals damage. Tamiyo targeting, where was it? I can't tell which Selfless Spirit my Tamiyo targeted, but, you know, details. Alright, I'm going to sack this Selfless Spirit, because I believe that's the one that doesn't have Tamiyo's activation on it. Alright, good. We sacked the right one. We draw a card. Land. Untapped land. Damn. If we would have hit an untapped land there, we would have gotten to... Oh, I could still have a chance to hit an untapped land, right? It plays really bad against Harness Lightning, though. I could plus this. I could tick up, hit them with the Selfless Spirit, and then if we hit untapped land, we can play Avacyn, sack the Spirit, and then try and clear the board. Like, that play wins the game on the spot if they don't have a Harness Lightning. And if they had a Harness Lightning, they might have tried to kill through our stuff last turn to kill the Tamiyo. I'm going to target my 2 guys here and attack with the Selfless Spirit, because if we hit an untapped land, we're going to go for it. Ding. Play this, reveal this. Down on me. Alright, big bucks, no Harness Lightning. If they have Harness Lightning, we're probably going to be in a bad spot. Ding! Boom goes the dynamite. God, I love this card. Is that good? If so, why? Could anyone please explain? Class, please raise your hand. Don't all answer at once. Yes, me. You come and put it down on me. I'm right here. I need love and little sympathy. Show me good loving, make it alright. Sugar, yeah, me. Oh, they have a land. That's good for them. Body touch it unless that somebody's me. Girl, you're hotter than a Southern California day. God, how many cards is this card drawn? It's so good. It's so good. Oh, baby, please, please, just take the cards and inject them into my veins. Trigger. Alrighty, God bless. Go. I'm very unlucky and don't have a play to make. Make it alright. Need a little sweetness in my life. I've never wanted someone to play a Glorybringer so badly in my entire life. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, total flavor fail. Oh sure, you got a Hydra. In response to this trigger, I'm going to use my mana and cast the cast out. If they want to ship 2 points into this Tamiyo, that's fine. We get to draw a card. Sweetness in my life, sugar. Yeah, me. Come and put it down on me. And they don't attack, because they don't want to give me a card. God bless. Pick these two, Pikachu. Deal. God, could you imagine how bad this card would be if the backside still died to Fatal Push? Holy crap. What's her card count at now? Like 6? 6 cards or something obnoxious like that? And it like fogged them for a turn too at one point this game? Windows and close the doors. More. Oh! Oh, we're coming across! Nope, not coming across. Are we? Whoop, whoop, didn't do it. Alright, I'm gonna play the Avacyn end of turn here, just so we can kill them. I have the Selfless Spirit to protect it in case they have a Glorybringer. Oh, look at all my girls here together, hanging out, drawing a bunch of cards. Come, my lady, come, my lady. Who's my honey pie? Sugar, baby. Window. Play the Selfless Spirit. Concede. Alright, got it. Largely unplayable. The card that makes you skip your turn that dies to the most playable removal spells in the format is unplayable. In Modern, it is also unplayable because it is generally smaller than Tarmogoyf, almost always smaller than Death Shadow, and trades with Gurmag Angler, which only costs half as much mana and doesn't make you skip an untapped step. Alright, well this is good. It feels good to have 2 deck lists that I like, and the event's still a week away, so... I 3-2'd the league last night, too. We're on the play again? Yeah, seems fine. think that card's sweet. I think it's probably not good enough in Modern because of cards like 1/1 Thopters and Walking Ballista, but I think in Modern it's probably playable. Fun fact. Rowanus, the Last Stand card, would be infinitely more playable if it was simply a 5/5 or a 4/5, so it didn't die to Grasp of Darkness. The fact that it dies to both of the most commonly played removal spells very easily makes it very, very bad. When I first started... Look at those beautiful basics. Those big, beautiful Zendikar basics. Ooh. Come, my lady. Come, my lady. She's my honey pie. Sugar, baby. Sure, you've killed my card that drew a card. Deal. It's not quite perfect. We do have blue spells. Winning is fun, and we're winning tonight. Probably gonna lead on this. Yeah. Am I gonna hold this back? I'm just gonna play this out and pass the turn, I think. Don't know what that card does. I haven't been looking at most of the spoilers. The spoilers aren't relevant to the Invitational, and the Invitational is what I'm working towards right now, so... At some point, they will be relevant in my life. That time period is probably when a full spoiler's released. I'm gonna sound like the Grinch who stole Christmas. And I feel like this every season when I say these words, but I hate spoiler season. Hate spoiler season as a competitive player. I just want to, like, know what all the cards do and, like, actually build decks with them. I don't want to just, like, sit here and, like, get these bits and pieces in, basically. It's so miserable, in my opinion. And you feel free to disagree with that, but I personally dislike it. I just want to get everything now and just, like, know what I'm working with. I'll start by cracking this clue, I think. Seems good. Rogue Refiner, sure, that's not the worst. Do I want to play the Tamiyo instead? Rogue Refiner means I can hold up Negate for a potential Chandra. No, I just, like, the spoiler season basically, like, gives you redundant work, right? Like, you're thinking about this deck list, but then, like, I have to re-examine it every time a new card comes out that could potentially, like, work in it. So, like, why even spend time examining it to begin with if I'm just going to have to come back and redo that work later when I have more complete information? I don't have good attacks here, at least. If they attack with the tracker, I'm going to double block. Yep. I have 12 energy. I think our deck needs an energy payoff. What about you all? Selfless Spirit's okay. We're flooding out a little bit here. I think we need a Tamiyo and lock down their guys here. I could also, like, Tamiyo plus on here. This is 6. I could Tamiyo plus Servant and Spirit. That's not the worst. I'm going to do that. I'm going to plus on Glorybringer and Chandler Innate, because I think these are their most likely guys to attack next turn. Sure. Yeah, it's basically like Hydra and Long Tusk Cub, and I was kind of wanting more 2-drops in this deck anyway, so Long Tusk Cub seems kind of appealing. I'm going to play this Selfless Spirit out. I think I'm just going to play this other Servant. I guess I could leave the Negate up in case my opponent has a... Yeah, I'm just going to leave the Negate up. I'll leave the Negate up in case they have a Chandra. Yeah, I think I want to try like 2 to 3 Cubs in the 75, the main deck. I mean, EDH is like one of the least, the 1v1 competitive EDH seems like one of the least diverse formats in the history of constructed Magic, so I don't really feel, it doesn't seem very interesting. Yeah, feel free to make one. Escape. So this is going to exert and kill something, but we're going to get to draw a card because it's going to deal damage to the Tamiyo. So you got that going for us. Probably just going to kill the Selfless Spirit because I can just sack this anyways if they go to kill something else. My Kingdom for an Avacyn. Alright, we can cycle that at least. Yep, Long Tusk Cub. I have no idea what's going to survive rotation. Anyone that tells you otherwise is lying to you and making stuff up. No, it says combat damage. I checked that. Until your next turn, whenever those creatures deals combat damage, that's a triggered ability. Tracker's not bad. Am I going to start with that? Part of me really wants to send this guy on a suicide mission. It's probably a bad idea. Yeah, Fumigates are good post-forward. We don't have any. This is game 1. Right? Yeah, this is game 1. Double-checking the clocks. It's just blurring because our last opponent was playing something similar. We're going to plus this on Long Tusk Cub and Chandler Innate? Sure. Not casting this off of this because I want to hold the Negate up. Sure. Maybe I'm supposed to target their tracker there, actually. Yeah, it's probably supposed to target their tracker there, actually. Long Tusk Cub and Tracker. Yeah. Or maybe their Long Tusk Cub and my Rogue Refiner, so that way whatever this blocks, I get to draw a card. Another Glorybringer. Yeah, that's pretty bad for us. Things Negate does not counter for 100. We're exerting, killing Tireless Tracker, I assume. Yep. It's unfortunate. Spell Queller. We're out of basics, right? There's one more basic in my deck. Let's go get it. Oh, I don't have a Tireless Tracker anymore. Right, it died. Yeah, pretty much just did here. Concede for the sake of time. Fumigate's good. Censor's decent on the play. I like the Declaration in stones in this matchup. I don't like cutting a couple of Spell Queller when we are bringing in Fumigate. So, yeah, this is the plan we're going with. Yeah, Blossoming Defense is probably fine. It lets, like, Queller jump up and block. I think this is fine. Seems fine. Cast outs are kind of clunky, but we can cycle one of those. Go Village tapped into Botanical Sanctum. Alright, don't spray me, bro. Man, they left spray in. I guess it kills Tireless Tracker too. That seems fine. Kills it for a window. Tonight. Huh. Yeah, I think I'm going to err on the side of flooding here and play this and cycle this Irrigated Farmland. Cycle this, depending on what we draw. Maybe cycle a cast out too. Let's just dig deeper. Good chance this shouldn't be in my deck right now. Non-zero. We'll see. I actually haven't cast this card yet, so I have no idea how good or bad it feels. In the first time. Crazy. Too much pressure and I'm nervous. Have a clue. I'll play this one instead of cycling it, I think. It's a 5th land. Playing my song, the butterflies fly away. My head like, yeah. So we're down cards, and they've got clues, so not in a great spot here. Gonna need a Tamiyo or an Avacyn to show up and generate some card advantage for us. That's real good. I guess we've got the cast out. Still doesn't feel good. How good would it be if they try and kill this and we get to Blossoming Defense it and then kill this? That would be so good. Please try and kill my Selfless Spirit. Oh, baby, a triple. Alright, get got, Chandra. Playing my song, the butterflies fly away. Nodding my head like yeah. Moving my hips like yeah. And again, I think, no. I'm gonna play, so I said, I was almost gonna say there I'm gonna hold this in case we draw a, what's it called? We draw a Tireless Tracker, but playing it out lets me emerge this off the Selfless Spirit. Not in my head like, yeah. So, I think I'm actually going to Deep-Fiend here. Not only do I get to eat this, but I get to tap down most of my opponent's lands here. They get to cycle their clues, I guess, but otherwise they're not really getting to use their mana to add to the board this turn. The party in the USA. And if we, like, hit a particularly aggressive series of draws here, we get to go ahead and, just, like, pressure our opponent out of this game, potentially. And they can't... Oh, they can Harness Lightning it before blocks. That makes sense. They had a pile of energy. I'm going to cycle one of these. Immediately punished. I'm going to hold that one in case we draw Tireless Tracker. I think of Black-White Zombies right now. Don't have an educated opinion on it. I mean, we've run pretty well tonight. Like, you're gonna run bad in some of your games. Man, that's unfortunate. They already have 3 energy, so I can't just kill this in response. right. Let's find a Fumigate. Oh my god. Holy crap, I'm dumb. That's a card in our deck. Nope. Whoopsie. Bad blood. I am a skilled magician. I have never lost 6 games of Magic as quickly as I lost them while playing the Taking Turns deck in Modern. That's fine, we're probably just dead here. We mulliganed and then haven't seen any of our card advantage. It's possible we just want 4 Tamiyos in this deck, honestly. Alright, 3 and 1. Now we got bad blood. Hey. Bad blood. I think cast out's great. Yeah. I mean, like, when you don't need cast out, you can cycle it. In response to the Thought Knot trigger, I looted with Jace to flip him. Does this trigger revolt and allow me to fatal? Yes. Jace leaving the battlefield and coming back triggers revolt. 10 out of 10. About the good times. Opponent asking if I was me. I let them know that I am in fact the real Slim Shady. Blue-red control, maybe? Another energy deck? Cathartic Reunion. Man, if we were just a turn later. I probably want this cast out to void one of their things down the line, right? Opponent's playing the blue-red emerge deck. This is actually a deck I'd considered building. Play this out. This has put up a couple of results in the Magic Online leagues. Bad blood. Hey. Problems. Think we can solve them. Maybe. And like I said earlier, like someone asked about what do I think of the 4-bat and stuff like that in general, and it's like we don't actually know. Like, who knows what's good, bad, or otherwise. What do we got? Don't kill my dork. Don't do it. Have a heart. I like my dork. Oh, they're doing it. Oh, no. We really needed that blue mana. Oh, our Stitchwing's gonna come back. Our Amalgam's gonna come back. That's another Servant of the Conduit. Is this just a 3-1? Sure. I feel like I should have kept the Esper deck to myself. I really don't want to play Beers the Invitational. It's another reunion and we're not going to be able to negate it. God, that feels bad. If you counter this, they still have to discard the cards. It feels great. I just want to live forever. Wanna keep forever till you come back home. Whoa. I think we're just taking 6 here. Oh. Mirrors would not be sweet. I like playing bad decks so I don't have to play mirrors. Unfortunately, they've already played 2 of them, so like we're probably not going to get it, and they've discarded a third, so probably not going to have another reunion to counter. You thinking about lava axing this? Grab an island here. Cast Rogue Refiner. Basically looking for Avacyn, right? Modern's a format where having a good matchup against the best deck does not mean you're going to do well in a tournament. Modern's the type of format where even the best deck is probably less than 15% of the room, even in extreme cases like with Death Shadow. Kozilek's Return. Huh. That's gross. I'm going to save my Rogue Refiner here. Is that worth doing? Nah, I'm going to save this to protect a Spell Queller, I think. Although Queller's probably not going to have that many more spells cast than actually take. Keep calling your name until you come back home. Whoa. Over 20% of these successful decks does not mean it's 20% of the people playing it. Good decks put up more conversion results than the percentage of the people playing them. Like, if a deck is 15% of the room and 15% of the top finishes, that means the deck's actually kind of mediocre or just average at the very least. A deck like Death Shadow that's good is probably 10 or 15% of the room and putting up 20+% of the top finishes. I think I'm just passing here, right? Crystal clear, you are the chandelier. I should probably just cast out here, actually, right? It plays into Censor, but it means they can't EDF me. Constellation, you are the scars above, light years away from being someone that I can touch, and I've been blinded by your ghost, 'cause it gets like, to save me from my wicked ways and all the loneliest nights. Ho ho ho, that soon you'll know. He's got a prized amalgam in his hand. Nope, just putting a 3-1 into play. Sure. Hit me for 7 here. I can fire this up. Hold the line. Heart that found you, now it won't beat without you. Headlight breathe, a scale of memories, a flashback in the night. And Untapped land? Oh, I think I'm just passing here, right? Yeah, I think it's Spell Queller plus Blossoming Defense, and then hopefully next turn we draw an untapped land and can go Tireless Tracker, land Selfless Spirit. Lost my way, tangled up inside. and it's crystal clear. You are the chandelier. Heaven to save me from my wicked ways and all the loneliest nights to stay. Yep. Lights on, 'cause it's dark when you're gone. Man, it's kind of unreal how all the other Magic streamers have, like, trained people to, like, not look for deck lists. God helps those who help themselves, children. Look around. When you walk into a room, investigate. There might be something dangerous or interesting in that room. Solid advice for your D&D campaign, by the way, too. When you walk into a room, investigate. Opponent's deck is 10 out of 10 playing Elder Deep-Fiend. 110% has Elder Deep-Fiend in their deck. See, Zach understands. He's not new here. I just wish that, like, it was the norm for there to be deck lists available, because then people would come in and they'd scroll down and they'd be like, oh, look, there's deck lists. That's unfortunate. I guess we're just playing Selfless Spirit, because Indestructible. I have Negate up here, too. One is not none. One is not none. One is not none. Please have your 4th Cathartic Reunion and cast it. We got this over here. Kind of scary. This is war. Meant to die. And oh man, not an entire dollar. Basically just have to trade here. No trades, alright. Land. I mean, it does something at some point, I guess. Even Twitch pennies could afford that. This is war. The Messiah. This. Unfortunately, they only have to pay 3 to evoke this. Which means they're going to tap my squad and then kill me. Alright, so we stumbled a little bit there in the beginning. Fumigate's great. Deck and Stone is amazing. Negate and Censor are pretty terrible. Spell Queller's fine. I think that's just what we're doing, right? We're bringing in Decks and Fumigates, and then calling the rest as is. Seems fine. Is Gideon good in this matchup? Probably not. I feel like this deck wants a 3rd Avacyn. Want a 3rd Avacyn, maybe a 4th Tamiyo. I probably don't want to. For the matches where I really want a 4th Tamiyo, I should probably just be bringing in the Nissa Vital Forces. Get some Planeswalker diversity going on. kinda, he just, like, he's not really good against their flying pounders, it feels like. I don't know that I want Hydra in the deck. Like, I feel like if I'm adding more 4+ mana things, I want them to be like Archangel Avacyn or like another Tamiyo. I don't really think I want Gideon. Good Hearthstone hand. Hand's kind of awk, but it's a keep. Bottom that because it's not a land? Yeah, probably. I think some Long Tusk Cubs probably aren't unreasonable. Long Tusk Cubs seems fine. It's a couple energy payoffs, basically. Alright, Danny needs a Botanical Sanctum. All I wanted for Christmas was a Botanical Sanctum. We went up to 26 lands for today's configuration. It's still just bricking and dying. Servant's fine. Servant helps make the mana work too. It's fixing. Big white walls, and in the hall there are people looking through. Exactly what we're here for. Don't look up, just let them think there's no place else you'd rather be. You're always on display. Don't you know by now you can't turn back? I think we're okay with that on average, right? I mean, we're still not drawing lands because we're really unlucky, but I think on average we're fine with this effect. We can vomit our hand out pretty quickly. I feel like this benefits us more than them, but maybe I'm wrong. They usually bring this in against more controlling decks. I guess we're not particularly aggressive. Don't discard 2 amalgams. Don't do it. Have a heart. Just 1 amalgam. Just 1 amalgam. Is all you'll ever have. God bless America. So far, while playing this deck, I have yet to lose a game where we really get to play Magic. So, the goal currently is increased consistency. Oh, MTG, LLV1. I don't know what is with TCG players and just like stating things as like a matter of fact, like this is what it is, and this is how things are. And it's just like, no, they don't actually play the Fevered Visions main deck as an engine. They pretty much all board into them. Let's find a random deck list here. All right, here's random deck list. There you go. They're in the board. Most recent 5-0 deck list. It's really not that hard to, like, be a little bit educated and, like, verify your statements before you spew. I promise. We're probably too far behind at this point. Dying. The camera's lying. They play Censor? No. I don't think so. Been wine. Been wine. Out in style. One of these days, we'll be able to play 2 spells at once, and it's going to be a glorious day. Yep, dead. because it is against the law for me to play music that I don't have the copyright to on my stream. And unlike many other streamers that don't have any morals, strong morals, whatever you want to refer to it as, I'm not going to steal music for you. So you can listen to me hum because I mostly do this for fun. So like I'm going to listen to music for myself in the evenings, but I'm not going to break the law and steal for you. And it's actually, or just, all right, that's fine. You know, sometimes there's only 4 lands in your top 17 cards in your... Ooh, I wonder what I got. If only there was... Oh, can I resize? Oh, it let me grab it. Oh, it wouldn't let me re-grab it earlier. Get that. Look at those 2 chests. Alright, so what do I want to do with this deck list? The Blossoming Defense is probably too cute. The Censors have been fine, but I don't know if I want to keep all of them. The Gideon on the board has just been, like, sitting there not doing a whole lot. I feel like I want at least one more piece of top end here. I actually have extra Archangel Avacyns. Look at that. I dropped the Censors overall. That could be true. Dropping the Censors altogether. Like, I wanted more 2-drops, and I didn't think about Cub when I was thinking about it. We don't have a lot of things that can consistently crew the heart, so I don't think I want that. I love these negates. These negates have they've been very good. I don't think I want to cut them. A couple of long tusk cubs seem super duper reasonable. Avacyn's just, like, overperformed every time we've drawn it, so just, like, get a 3rd copy of her in there. Should this just be just, like, the 4x Tamiyo deck? Is that just, like, where I want to be in life? I don't hate being at that point in my life, I feel like. Stuff like Censor and Negate plays really well when you're from behind. You can generally afford to hold up Queller. How do you mitigate this apparent weakness? Cards like Archangel Avacyn and Tamiyo generate a lot of card advantage, and like this card has a lot of board presence. There aren't decks that are going super wide, and the decks that are going big in this format, we have Fumigates out of the board to kind of deal with, and game 1, you can steal games against the decks that are trying to go big like Black-Green by like locking their creatures down for a couple of turns with Tamiyo, or like getting a big swing turn where the Elder Deep-Fiend adds 5 power to the board and taps their team down. Yeah, Avacyn plays pretty good from behind, and Elder Deep-Fiend lets us steal some games. I've been pretty happy with the main deck negates. Like, there's something relevant that they hit in almost every deck. Like, even the Zombies deck in the format, like, countering Dark Salvation or their enchantment is super reasonable. I don't hate how this looks. I'd kind of like a 3rd Long Tusk Cub. Is trimming a Rogue Refiner unreasonable? Yeah, like, you can play Tamiyo and then, like, -2 lock, play another one. You do this. Bring the curve nicely. It trims some of the energy, but Long Tusk Cub's a payoff for all this extra energy we have sitting around. Sylvan Advocate doesn't line up well against the other 2-drops people are playing. It's really bad against Long Tusk Cub. Yeah, and like a lot of times we emerge off of the Servant of the Conduit too when we're later in the game. Also, emerge off this is a great way to flip the Avacyn as well. Something else that could be reasonable too is that going down a Tireless Tracker, at least in the main deck, might not be insane. We leave the Rogue Refiner in here and maybe move this Tireless Tracker to the board and cut this Gideon that really just hasn't been doing anything. I don't hate this. Drags our curve down a little bit. We added 2 more pieces of top end here that are really good. The numbers all look fairly sane. I'm pretty happy with the mana base so far. we're playing 4 servants, especially if we're adding a Tamiyo and an Archangel Avacyn. Like, that's not optional. Yeah, rogue's great. You're right. I probably shouldn't cut them. I think I like doing this over to here. Would 3-bin Inspector be better than Attune? It's moments like this where I read the Twitch chat and I'm not sure if that's a serious question. Would you play Courser or Tracker if both were standard legal? That's a tough question. I think it's Tracker, the way a lot of standard games shake out, but I'm not actually sure. The thing is, like, I want 26 lands in this deck, so, like, the Attunes are, like, kind of energy fixing, and on top of that, they are energy, and, like, since we're adding, I don't think we add Long Tusk Cub and cut Attune with the Aether, because the games where you go, like, Attune with the Aether on 1 into Long Tusk Cub on 2 really let us be aggressive and apply pressure to our opponents. I don't think we need another island. I don't think there was a single time tonight where I wish we had a second island in the deck. This seems reasonable. We might honestly have too many counterspells. Like, there's a Dispel on the board here, too. So, like, that might be too many. It's possible I want, like, a 3rd Deccan Stone in the board. Maybe another Forsake the Worldly, perhaps. Deccan Stone's a pretty quality removal spell, especially when we're able to apply pressure like we are. I need to play some of the control matchups and see how they feel, but I feel like with like, this package up here at our top end and, like, these cards in our main deck, we probably don't need 5 counterspells on top of the Spell Quellers. No, I don't think so. I don't think I need any of those cards. I think I'm pretty happy with the cards that we're playing right now. Harness Lightning's, like, okay for killing things early, but, like, honestly, just, like, locking them down and tempoing them out of the game feels good. Third Archangel Avacyn is fantastic as well. Yeah, Forsake the Worldly seems decent. This card's good against the combo decks too, though, right? Like, Dispel hits a lot of their crap. And I've got Dissenter's Deliverance, too, for the artifact-based combo decks, like Metalworker Colossus and stuff like that. Although I guess Metalworker Colossus can sack stuff to come back to the hand. At any rate, it's almost 11 o'clock here, and I'm a little bit tired, so I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the evening. I'll be back on tomorrow at some point. I'm not sure exactly when. I might do another evening stream or maybe daytime, depending on who else is on and how the kids are behaving. At any rate, thank you, everyone, for hanging out. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Remember, if you didn't catch all of tonight's stream, we've been going for about 2.5 hours. The archive will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, and it'll be available tomorrow morning. You don't have any main deck double green spells, or Deep-Fiend is double blue. That's why I said add in an island. So the thing about the green versus the blue is that we have to have green mana to enable our fixing. So the mana base right now has 17 green sources, 12 white sources, and 12 blue sources. So the fact that we need green to enable this fixing, I think, makes this worthwhile. Yeah, I don't know. I thought about the second island for the Deep-Fiend, but, like, these happen so late in the game, and usually, like, you draw land and then, like, search for the island. I think it's fine, plus with the servants, but I don't know. I'm going to play more and keep track of it, but I feel like if we get caught on it, maybe we'll add a second island, but I'm pretty happy with the counts. The hypergeometric distribution says 17, 12, 12 is reasonable with these eight pieces of fixing. At any rate, I'm actually going to go ahead and sign off. It looks like I'm going to find someone to host here. Anyone else streaming standard? Yeah, DeCandio's on. I'm going to send you his way.